Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to Eminence TV Live, our weekly rundown of competitive news and interviews. I am Ashani, A.K.A. Jamaican Dude, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary, my handsome other half Scoots, who's hiding behind his microphone. And we would like to thank our sponsors, the Epic Storm, without whom this wouldn't be so amazing. If you're enjoying Eminence content and would like to see more, please consider subscribing here on Twitch. If you're on Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to one channel a month for free. We would love if for you to consider use that on us. God darn it. The Eminence Marketplace is now live at eminencemarket.com. One word. You'll find our latest merch, like our super cool playmat. Scott, you have a saying.
Oh,
Where's
of course.
playmat?
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, my.
It's
We do this. Okay.
right here.
We do this weekly. You never have it ready. Okay, here we go. That's the mat. You can purchase it on Eminence Market.com. Also, you can join our membership tier and our loyalty program and even Command Tower from the eminencemarket.com. Also, single player is live on Command Tower version 1.piece. Yeah, 1.piece. And to Scott.
Well, that's me. That's my name. Another lovely feature that I get to tell you about is the EDH.events is currently in beta, but catalogs all CEDH and EDH events tied to Command Tower. A fun feature of EDH.events and all the events that happen there is EDHtop16.com, where you can look at all of the various decks that placed highly in Eminence events, and any event for which a tournament organizer would like to submit data to our development team. So if you're a tournament organizer not currently on the Command Tower software, number one, I would suggest that you switch to the Command Tower software. Number two, if you have your data and you'd like it to be cataloged on the definitive data-driven source for CEDH deck lists, please contact our development team, contact@eminence.events. Thank you very much. And now I get to tell you about some dates and info, which is my favorite part because I get to say words. Cash Cards Unlimited 2. There is a name for it now, and I have not been given it, but it has a name. And it is June 3rd and 4th in Los Angeles, California at the Frank & Sons Cards Expo, I think. Exhibition. There you go. The cookout is July 29th through 30th. Fast approaching. I will be there. I will not be square, and you can bet your butt on it. Windmill Slam, September 29th to October 1st in October 1st in San Jose, California. Our return to the Bay Area. And then another thing that I get to tell you about, we just had one this past weekend. Mox Masters is back. May was sold out and wild. It was a wild event, and I can only imagine that June, July, and August are going to be absolutely crazy. A fun function of Mox Masters is the Mox Masters Invitational, where if you place in a Mox Masters event, be that online or in person, or the Playing with Power League, you can earn points towards an invite to the Mox Masters Invitational. The top 4 of yesterday's Mox Masters event all earned invites to the Mox Masters Invitational. And it was a pretty wild top 4. I think it's probably going to be on the YouTube channel. I'm not sure. Sean, do you know?
It is. It's already on the YouTube channel.
It's already there. It was pretty wild. Yeah. Probably worth watching. And Command Tower is live for shops and TOs globally to use. Starts at $5 a month. We are in everywhere. I think we're on every continent except Antarctica right now with Command Tower, which is pretty rad. And that is what I have for you as far as events and Eminence news. And so I get to introduce our guest. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome CoachJRo to the program. Coach, if people have been living under a rock for the last 3 to 4 years, where could they find you on the internet? And could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
All right, so I am CoachJRo, the Unsummoned Skull. I'm host of the Quote of Arms podcast. I'm a writer for Commander's Herald, formerly for EDH Rec. It's an offshoot of it. I just basically do a different column and for slightly different content. I'm a streamer at twitch.tv/Unsummoned Skull. I have a YouTube channel at bit.ly/Unsummoned Skull. My Twitter is Unsummoned Skull, and I have a 400-person Discord called the Skull Symbol. I do a lot of
Excellent.
things.
Excellent. Excellent. You are involved in many different TCG endeavors. I see you
Mhm.
doing Magic. I see you doing Pokemon. I Are there any other TCGs you're currently diving into?
I have some Yu-Gi-Oh affiliation as well, although
Okay.
most of what I do is Magic related. It just splashes into those other fandoms.
Yeah. Okay. Um.
But the Yu-Gi-Oh is referenced in my moniker, the Unsummoned Skull. Because Summoned Skull is the Yu-Gi-Oh monster. It represents because I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh in middle school,
Okay.
around when a lot of people did, but we didn't know what the rules were, and so we just played with whatever. Like I think it was like the whatever rules they had on TV at the time,
Yeah.
because we had no idea how we were supposed to play.
Yeah. That's funny.
So yeah, so Summon Skull represents me going back to that original like why I got into gaming, which was as a social thing, to just have a reason to hang out with people.
Nice.
And then the unsummoned part of it comes from my favorite card, which it's kind of an unusual card to have as your favorite. Unsummon.
A
For a
cool card.
blue, instant, bounce any creature. It is a cool card, but it's not one of those like big splashy things like somebody loves Shivan Dragon or somebody like is known for loving Lilianas or Chandras or something like that.
Hmm.
It, it's not one that people really know all that well. It just has kind of been there for a long time.
Yeah. It's back in
Uh,
standard right now, I think.
Probably. It's hard pressed to find a time when it hasn't been in standard, or
Yeah.
at least a variant of it.
Yeah.
They seem to come out with a new one every set. Speaking of which, Wizards, come on, please give me a preview the next time.
Let's go. Give the coach a preview card. That's what we like to see.
Yeah. I've been saying if I ever get a preview, I'm gonna get my my the teacher who ran the games club when I was in high school. I'm gonna get him involved in some way because he recently retired. It would have been awesome as a retirement gift to give him a copy of my first ever preview card.
That would be very cool.
But still don't have one yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get
Got to
there.
keep plugging away.
Growth over time. Uh,
Yep.
s- so we are primarily here at Eminence, a Magic the Gathering channel. However, since we do have you here and you are knowledgeable about such things as another TCG, we are somewhat interested in. Actually, I would say quite interested in overall. Uh, Pokemon the trading card game. I was wondering if we could ask you some questions about the Pokemon.
Sure. I will say most of what I do with Pokemon is alter. So I have an alter uh, relationship with Fox Noctum, where we have a
Yep.
project that we're working on together. That's also the subject of my article series on Commander's Herald. But I do know about the TCG as well.
Cool.
So what would you like to ask?
Number one, we'll talk about your article series. I believe it's called Pokédex, which is a very nice pun on the two
Yeah.
things that I know about Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. Uh,
Yeah.
that's cool. So tell us a little bit more about your article series. You do articles highlighting an altar of a commander of a legendary creature, and you turn them into and draw comparisons to a Pokemon.
So essentially, what happens is So I have a working relationship with Fox Noctum,
Okay.
where essentially I provide an art description. He makes the altar of the commander, and then the deck that I wind up creating references the art in some way. So sometimes the order of those details is changed a little bit.
Okay.
Sometimes I make the deck first and then get the altar to represent what's in the deck. Um, it's a couple of different examples of that. So, because we have cameras, this
Whoa.
is one example. Can you see it pretty clearly?
Okay.
Yes,
It's
okay.
cutting in and out, but
Okay. So that's an example of Rasheen Meanderer being altered to be Larvesta.
okay.
Um, so why Larvesta? Well, because it has kind of tendrils sticking out, and the deck is a Hydra deck.
Gotcha.
And then in the
Nice.
background, there's little squiggly lines representing the Hydras that are waiting in the deck.
Gotcha.
So there's also the ability to power up the commander with some X spells that increase power. So the deck is Roshin Meander Flame Charge.
Nice.
Sounds good.
So, um, tell us a little bit about how you kind of design these parallels between the Pokemon that you're trying to represent and the cards in the deck. Like, um, is it every card in the deck is kind of complementary to the altar that happened, or is it more of you're just trying to tell a story with certain cards in the deck?
So in my article series, I kind of outlined the process that we go through with them.
Mhm.
So there's an element of the deck that's built around the commander, what the commander does well.
Mhm.
There's an element that's built around what the Pokemon does well and what kind of moves the Pokemon knows. That's where the dex gets its nickname from.
Okay.
And then there's an element that is trying to merge the two in some way.
Okay.
So my most recent article was on Errant Street Artist, and I turned it into Bronzor, which is one of my favorite Pokemon. Not necessarily because the design itself, which I think is kind of cool. It looks like both a mirror and it can also look like a shield, which is kind of how it behaves. But also, it's designed off of a role play game that I made. Uh, that one of the gym leaders was Aikido based and was using the opponent's energy against them, and that's a lot of what the deck does.
Okay.
So counter, reversal, things like that.
So you do some game design as well?
Yeah, I do some TTRPG design.
Okay.
Right now, I'm doing a lot of work with a lot of work with 5e to try to make it more friendly for my games club.
Okay.
Which so I run a games club at the virtual school where I teach.
Awesome.
So we meet every week, and I'm trying to find ways to make games palatable to that games club and do it completely virtually.
Nice. A virtual
How
school,
long?
huh? Like a
Yeah.
completely like a K-12 type setup, or
So the school that I work at right now is high schoolers.
okay.
Okay.
Um, so it's entirely high school. It's mostly credit recovery.
Okay.
And the Games Club is kind of the flagship. This is how we show that we're a school and not just like a source of credit
Like
recovery.
a GED program. You're a school. Yeah.
Hmm.
So how long have you been running the program,
Yeah.
the Games Club?
So this is my second year in this school.
Okay.
Previously, I ran a Games Club for 3 years when I taught in person in Pontiac, which is uh, it's a suburb of Detroit, and it's
Yep.
a relatively underprivileged area.
Okay.
So lots of high diversity, high Hispanic and African American rate at that school, and low socioeconomic status. When I was at that school, what I did was primarily got the uh, games club to sort of function like an LGS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm a level 1 judge. I'm also a tournament operator.
Nice.
So I can host my own tournaments. And I registered at school as an LGS, got sponsors in from Potomac Distribution as well as a couple of other places. And that was kind of my motivation for doing well in tournaments after I made the Pro Tour.
Oh,
Once I
nice.
accomplished that goal was, okay, now every tournament I'm going to try to win boxes for them to draft.
That's very cool.
That's awesome.
That's very cool. So how long were you involved with the Pro Tour for?
Um, so I made it to one Pro Tour,
Okay.
and after that they kind of discontinued the Pro Tour process.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I made it just in time.
Yeah. Yeah. The Pro Tour, it's been cool seeing it back. It's
Mhm.
really cool in February, and I heard this over the weekend that this event was very cool too. Do you have
Yeah,
any
it feels like
aspirations of trying to crack it again?
no,
No.
no. It kind of feels like it lost a lot of its luster,
Okay.
especially with like the Hall of Fame losing a lot of what was there.
Mm.
Um, it just kind of feels like that it's gone now.
Yeah, the ability is gone from it. Yeah.
I think a little bit of it also has to do with the split between the digital and paper forms of the
Mhm.
game,
Mhm.
and the fact that it just it seems like the talent is less uh, focused or isolated than it was before. Like there's a lot more talented people who are doing arena content and not trying for the Pro Tour or something like that.
Okay.
That and standard is no longer like the primary way to play. Um, I'm much more likely to get a game of Commander than I am to go to an LGS and find an FNM fighter.
Yeah, they don't fire standard at FNMs around here anymore at all. It's all Pioneer
It's all Pioneer. Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Mhm.
No standard, no
And
modern, no legacy, all Pioneer now.
then there's the changes to standard that are coming up, and I don't want to talk too much about them because I don't really play standard anymore.
But
Uh,
the 3 year cycle instead of
Sure.
the 2 year cycle. You're talking about those changes?
Yeah, the only problem I have with it that I can say formally is I don't like the idea that they are not applying it to this cycle.
Yeah.
That they are keeping the current cards for another year.
Yeah.
I think it would be better if they just let the current ones rotate out.
Rotate out and then
And
start with the new set 3 year thing.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to get faulty information because they're designing with the wrong paradigm.
Well, also, I don't think anyone wants another year of Invoke Despair and Shieldred, right?
I don't really know because I didn't play it.
Fair
I
enough.
haven't played Standard since Kaldheim came out.
Hmm.
Um, but it invalidates their future league testing because they didn't test with these cards in the format. They tested assuming that these cards were going to rotate out.
Hmm. Okay.
So I don't. So as a result, there's at least a year period where they don't know what's going to happen, or they can't accurately have a barometer of what they think will happen,
Okay. Yeah.
and therefore the information that they get isn't going to be useful.
I mean, that's some good perspective. I mean, from someone who's been there and done that. I mean, that's good perspective. We'll see how Watsy handles it moving forward. I'll kind of get us away from discussions of the future of standard and
It's
um
like
my question to you is in taking a peek at your article series a little bit, uh why why Pokemon as the thing to draw parallels to? What kind of what kind of drew you there specifically? Because you mentioned you do some TTRPG design, you dabble in other things, you played some Yu-Gi-Oh when you were younger. Why was it Pokemon that stuck out to you?
well, Pokemon was the first game where I really felt like I was part of it.
Okay.
in terms of gamer culture.
Okay.
Prior to Pokemon, when I was in 5th grade, gaming really felt like it was something where it was exclusionary, if
Hmm.
anything. Uh, so for a long time, I hated video games, which is kind
Okay.
of weird for somebody to say who loves gaming now. But I
Yeah.
hated video games because it felt like it was something that was like kind of gate kept from me.
Okay.
My parents would let me have sports games, and that's about it. Um, but even stuff like that, for most games, I had to go to either the arcade, Marvelous Marvins, which was near my house, or to a friend's house
I remember
to
arcades.
play. Yeah. Yep, so I had to go to like a friend's house to play a game, and
Hmm.
for a while I didn't have any friends. I didn't have friends, or people who would consider me to be a friend until 1st grade, which was a while to go without a friend. And then in 1st grade, the friends that I made were two twins who happened to live in my subdivision, uh, who basically I found out later played with me only because their parents said that they had to have someone else in the room. So they would
Oh,
play Final Fantasy, pass the controller back and forth between them, and I would play with their cat or talk with their sister.
there are worse
Um,
things than playing with a cat, but yeah, I feel you.
if I was lucky, the cat would come downstairs.
There you go.
Otherwise, it was just me sitting around for a few hours while they played a game that I didn't really understand or care about.
Hmm.
But when I went over to another friend's house, it was a neighbor's house. Unfortunately, my subdivision was really weird, where the year after me, everybody went to a different school that was closer. So, like my neighbors, if they were a year younger, went to a different school.
Hmm.
So my neighbor, who was a year younger, went over to his house. He went to a different school because that's how my neighborhood worked, which is weird. And he was playing Pokemon, and he did things like we got to. He let everybody who was at his birthday party name a Pokemon,
Hmm.
and so now every time he went into a battle, I would be like, okay, I hope the one that was named after me does well, instead of just sitting around and not feeling like I was part of it. It was kind of like a Let's Play before Let's Plays.
I sympathize with that. You know, when I was younger, it was the Oregon Trail. Dude,
Hmm.
like,
I got that. I remember that one too.
change everybody's name. Change everybody's name. And if you died of dysentery, you just got made fun of. It's great. It's good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man.
alrighty. I
Sean, you
don't
talk
have any.
about my gray hair all the time. This is where it
I,
came from, okay?
I did.
All
I
right?
don't have any. I don't have any stories. I apologize.
No stories? No stories
No,
about Pass
no,
the Pickle when you were a little kid or. Okay.
no, no. Sorry, no,
No Kick the Can tales? Okay. All right.
no. Sorry, the third world country wasn't like that at all. My bad.
Unfortunate. Unfortunate.
That's
But
okay.
yeah. So you clearly governed a community for a while and played different games. How did you get the pretty much the youth into holding interest into card games?
So the interesting card games came about because of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mhm.
Um, there was some collecting of Pokemon cards, but at the time I had no idea how to use them, and I wound up actually giving all of those cards away to the teacher who got me into Magic.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh was in middle school, and that was the time where, because nobody knew the rules, nobody was able to be like to have that air of superiority, like they were better than anybody else.
Hmm.
Okay.
We were all just kind of making up the rules
Yeah.
based on what we saw on TV. So that was just a cool time, and that's where I got the the summoned skull part. The unsummoned part comes from when I was the so when I ran my own games club in Pontiac, I would have the students do what I called color challenges,
Okay.
which are kind of like 20 card decks. Um, little bit like jumpstart packs. 20 card decks, each of which is so each of which specializes in the commons that you would see in a given color.
Mm-hmm.
The blue one had like Unsummoned in there, Counterspell. Actually, I think it had. I don't think it had Counterspell formally. I think it had Cancel. Because if you open a given booster pack, you'll see some variant of Cancel. So it's designed to help students learn how to evaluate cards, but also help them learn how to finish games off quickly. They were 20 card booster packs, 8 lands, 8 creatures, 4 non creatures, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the students would always complain that blue was the weakest color because it's funny to think about it that way, but they would complain about blue being weak, and then I would show them all the different things Unsummon can do.
Mm-hmm.
How you can use Unsummon to set up a counter spell. How you can use Unsummon to win a race. How you can use Unsummon to protect your threat.
Mm-hmm.
All these
Right.
different things that Unsummon can do. The reason why I love Unsummon so much is because there's so much that it can do in a given game.
Mm-hmm. So you kind
uh,
of got the kids involved by teaching them about like the intricacies of Magic. It sounds like they understood, like they were able to understand the intricacies of playing what blue entails because of what you were telling them. Is that?
yeah. Uh, so once they were able to win a game with each color, then they were able to draft.
Oh, cool.
And when they
Ah,
drafted,
okay.
That's cool.
because that was necessary for them to learn how to evaluate cards
Yeah.
and how to actually plan around winning games.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you go with that rough 16 16 4, 16 lands, 16 creatures, 4 non creatures, or sorry, 16 16 8,
Yeah.
then you wind up with a decent distribution in terms of being able to make a good limited deck.
So you didn't just yell bread at them while they were making their first draft, right?
No, it was remember the numbers that were in the thing before. Remember how
Yeah.
that felt. Now you can adjust it slightly if there's something that you felt you were missing, but something along those lines.
Yeah.
Basically, think about mashing 2 of those together.
That's cool. I know
That's
that
super cool.
when I
Yeah.
first learned limited, they were like bombs, removal, something, you know, the acronym, and that's all they would tell me. And I was like, okay. And I drafted like, I think the first set I ever played limited in was like uh Dominaria, like the second, like the Return to Dominaria set
Mm-hmm.
with all the legends, and I accidentally drafted a deck that 3-0'd limited, but because it was just things that said deal damage and Grand Warlord Rada. It was just red and green. Uh,
Nice.
they were like, okay, bombs, removal, and I only got that far. But it's taken a long time to actually become a limited player after that. So I think that's really cool that you're kind of giving them a different foundation to build on. Because I think there are like more nuanced takes for limited, but there are also like 16 creatures, 8
This is
non-creatures,
something
16
where
lands.
I wanted them to be able to make functional decks and
Yeah.
to be able to build towards something. So for them, for a lot of them, the on ramp to being able to like develop a collection and to play regularly was to go um, the color challenge into limited, into brawl, um, because the two sets that we did a lot of were Dominaria and War of the Spark. So they would get a lot of legends and planeswalkers,
Yeah.
and then into Commander or Oathbreaker.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. I think, yeah, there were so many legends that came out of Dominaria and War of the Spark. There's so much room to be inspired by those two sets. So I think it's a really natural transition into like Commander and other formats for the kids. That's cool. So did they get to keep the cards that they drafted when you drafted? Was it that kind
Oh,
of
absolutely.
very cool?
That was one of the reasons why I played competitively for a while after I made the Pro Tour, and I was kind of questioning, okay, what do I do next? Because I kind of achieved this thing I've been trying to do for 10 years.
Yeah.
What do I do now? Because the Pro Tour is gone.
Yeah.
Um, because I won a Pro Tour, I also won a state championship and made the top 8 at nationals.
Hmm.
So those were kind of like the feathers in my cap.
I mean, those are some big feathers. That's pretty cool.
I also had some good finishes at SCG Opens as well, and I played in
Nice.
a couple of Grand Prix. But
Did you ever experience the hell that is SCG Syracuse or?
no, I didn't get to travel that much. Although the only traveling I've done semi recently was for Magic.
Yeah.
Um, there was about a 3 year period where I went to, I think it was Cleveland, and then Minnesota, and then Chicago, which are pretty much the only times I've traveled as an adult. Each one in a different mode of transportation, by the way. Cleveland was by car, Chicago was by train, and then the Pro Tour in Minnesota was. It's interesting to think about how long ago that must have been now, because there's another Pro Tour in Minnesota. Um, but that was by airplane.
Trains, planes, and automobiles. You've done all three.
Yeah. I guess I got to find a new way of transporting myself next time.
Gotta go by boat. Gotta go to one in Canada by boat or something.
Yeah, I could try that.
So you are now you're running a gaming club for your virtual school, which is very cool.
Mhm.
What are you using to facilitate? Do you still play Magic in that virtual club, or do you mostly do TTRPGs? Or
We've talked about Magic, and I've shown them how to use the virtual webcam function,
mm-hmm.
because most of the students don't own cards, and so
Yep.
I don't want to necessarily tell them to go into Arena because they won't. Arena is okay, but not great, and there isn't like multiplayer and such. We
Yeah.
use Board Game Arena.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of divide it into quarters. There's a quarter where we do Board Game Arena, a quarter where we do D&D,
Okay.
and that's one of the things I'm designing for right now in terms of being able to make D&D more approachable for them.
Nice.
There's Board Game Arena, there's D&D, um, there's Pokemon Showdown,
Okay.
which is run through Smogon. None of these require downloading, which is what's helpful with it because they're on school
Yeah,
computers.
that's cool.
Pokemon Showdown allows them to make their own Pokemon lineup,
Mm-hmm.
adjust the EVs and IVs to whatever they want, and then battle them against each other.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's really
So
cool.
what we do with that is the Gym Leader Challenge.
Okay. Tell me about that.
So each of the quarters has like a display that they do at the end for anybody that's interested.
Mm-hmm.
So we open it up to anybody who wants to check out Gaming Club as kind of like showing off what the club does.
Cool.
So they make their own gym leaders. They pick a type, and then they have to learn about what's are the type strengths and weaknesses. What are the members of that type? How do you build them, and how do you build a team
Team.
uh,
Yeah.
to function properly in such a way that it maximizes what they do well,
Mm-hmm.
minimizes what they don't do well, um, things to that effect.
Cool.
So what they then do is during that show off period, we, the people who want to check out Games Club can make their own teams and then go up against the gym leaders who have been practicing this for weeks.
Nice. That's really cool. It's a nice way to introduce people and get people talking too. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really fun.
Yeah, and we actually wind up getting into competitive strategies, even though what they wind up creating isn't necessarily something they can take to like the VGC.
Yeah.
Um, but they learn competitive strategies. This is what works. This is what doesn't work. This is how people play at high levels of the game.
Hmm. That's cool.
That's
That's
very
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Um. So, we're kind of entering the point where I'd close out the broadcast. So let me ask you just a few more questions. Number one, what is something that you're passionate about right now that isn't like gaming or TCG related?
I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit, but
That's
I
fair.
am a world history teacher.
Okay.
Well, I love reading. I got a book published in October of 2020. So I
Okay.
love writing.
Nice. You wanna advertise it a little bit here? Tell us about your
Sure,
book.
sure. And book is called Ovejas Perdidas, or Lost Sheep. Has to do with the parable of lost sheep
Okay.
from Jesus.
Yeah.
Uh, so I am Jewish, and the story has to do with a Nazi who tries to kill a Jew in Spain,
Okay.
in occupied Spain. The gun fails to fire, and from that point, it basically causes a number of different people to have existential crises.
Okay. Nice. So it sounds like not a work of young adult fiction. It sounds like it's one for the parents out there.
Actually, it is YA. It's
Okay.
more high school age, but yeah, it focuses
Cool.
primarily on the kids. Because there's the Nazi who tries to shoot the girl, is of teenage.
Okay.
He's given a lot of like way too much power way too quickly, but that has to do with he's the fact that he's a well-connected teenager.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Um, the Jewish girl just found out that she was Jewish and has to process that while also dealing with the fact that she is basically being kept as a hostage by the Nazi who tried to kill her. Because he sees her as like a science experiment,
Yeah.
kind of a religious science experiment, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like how did this work? Why did this work? Things like that.
Hmm. That's cool. And that was Ovejas Pendidas, you said?
Perdidas. Perder means to
Okay.
lose something.
Okay.
Like me pierdo mi lápiz, I lost my pen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
that's,
Cool.
um, and there's a few different languages in there. I speak Spanish fluently, so that's in there as well.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. Um, I guess the last question that we ask every guest, well, the second to last question is number one, for those who have kind of tuned in since we started, where can people find you on the internet? Who are you? What do you do?
I do a little bit of everything. I'm CoachJRo, the Unsummoned Skull. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Unsummoned Skull. I have a YouTube at bit.ly/Unsummoned Skull, primarily supporting Commander and Oathbreaker content. I'm a Skull Symbol Discord server and a. Um, so I also have a podcast called the Quote of Arms podcast, where people talk about their favorite creature types, archetypes, and synergies, formerly known as tribes. So yeah, I do a lot of different things.
Nice, very cool. The last question I have for you, and the most important question that I ask every guest who comes on the show, is, Coach, you've had some great opinions and some good thoughts up to this point, so I trust your opinion on this one. What is the sexiest soup?
I mean, you got to go with French onion because I mean,
Good
parlez du
answer.
français. Uh,
That's a
I
good
mean,
answer.
yeah, you know that the French know what they're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks everyone for hanging out, having a good time, and we will see you next week. Back to the regular time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Uh, See you later.